Hi everybody, this is Marie from the Innovation Group, and welcome to our webinar, Data Science and Gaming, also presented by Innovation Analytics. I'm going to give a brief technical overview here so that you can get the best webinar experience, and please wait until the slides are finished before you start following the steps. To start off, you'll want to ensure that the participant's icon at the top of your screen is highlighted blue so that you can see the panelists' webcams. The software is designed to highlight whoever's talking so that you shouldn't have to make any adjustments. Your screen layout should be such that you see our presentation on the left and the webcams on the right. You'll want to stick with this view versus going full screen on any panelists so that you can see the PowerPoint presentation that they're going to give. The next slide shows how to ask a question, and you'll click on the Q&A icon until it's blue or enabled. And you should see the Q&A drop-down options at the bottom right portion of your screen. Go ahead and select Ask All Panelists so that both myself and the panelists can see your question. We'll set aside some time at the end to address as many questions as we can. If you're attending via mobile phone and you want to see the panelists instead of the PowerPoint for some reason, just double tap their camera window and it should go full screen. And if you encounter any technical problems amidst the webinar, a recording of it will be posted to our website within the next few weeks so that you don't miss it. And now here's Innovation Group President Michael Salt to kick things off.
Thanks, Marie. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're joining from. I'm Michael Salt, President of the Innovation Group. Welcome on behalf of the company and our newest division, Innovation Analytics. Although many attendees have had the opportunity to speak with us about data science and its role in gaming, I wanted to take just a moment on why we're involved and have invested in this space. For those of you who have followed gaming technology, and internet gaming in particular, over the last decade, you realize there has been a sort of forged relationship between online and on-the-ground traditional casino activity. It seems finally that the intersection between gaming's past and its future, on LAN and online, lives in the data and customer relationships we have all valued as an industry. What's changed is the sheer volume of data available, whether through social sites, for money play sites, or database enhancements on site. For the Innovation Group, having mapped databases for decades, trying to find new players and value in our existing players, the focus on data science is a natural progression, especially coupled with our customer survey research and iGaming services. The value that can be unleashed with the guidance and support of great minds in this area is astonishing. And the goal of today is to share some of the science and insights and continue a dialogue with you, our valued clients, and our collaborative partners in this exciting area. Following the call, please feel free to follow up with any of us at Innovation Analytics or the Innovation Group to discuss what we consider a very flexible platform in supporting your thought process. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to our co-founders and principals in Innovation Analytics, Anthony Mason and Matt Konopka.
Thanks, Mike. I'm Anthony Mason, and along with my co-founder, Matt Konopka, we are Innovation Analytics. A little bit about our background. If we can move to the next slide. Could we move to slide 8?
Yep, I've got it on the intro slide on you guys.
Yep. That's the About Innovation Analytics?
No, I have it on the panelist slide. Let's do this.
Oh, okay. That's not what I'm seeing. Sorry.
Looks like it did forward. Let me try this. All right. I'm going to share. Sorry, guys. I'm going to go ahead and hand this to Matt because I know he has the PowerPoint up. Looks like we're having a technical glitch with trying to forward these slides.
Okay, great. Matt, are you in control now?
Not quite yet, I don't think.
All right. So just a little bit on my background. I have gaming experience in the international, tribal, and regional realms. And my focus has always been using data to drive strategy, and specifically in direct marketing and promotional marketing, as well as e-commerce and financial planning and analysis. And so, Matt, I'll hand it over to you to let you introduce yourself.
Cool. Thanks, AJ. My name is Matt Konopka. I'm also a principal at Innovation Analytics. My specialties are in quantitative and statistical programming, econometrics, and other types of analyses in support of business management and litigation. So I'm going to be taking the next part of this presentation to kind of show you what data science is, take you through a case study of how data science works in the real world, and then at the end, AJ and I will have a back and forth, a little discussion just of the major points that we want to get across and double back on. So I just kind of want to get some of the terminology down with everyone. So this is the best question. What is data science? So basically, data science is where you take the experimental methods from science and scientific endeavors, and you apply it to the data that has been created in what we've seen in the past decade or so as the explosion of big data, large data sets, customer resources, and things like that. So what it's trying to do is say we have a lot of unstructured data, and we have just such a wealth of it, it's very difficult to get that into an insight. So first, we take the two parts. The data part is going to be your operational data warehouses, your customer relationship management databases, revenue management, all of that data that just lives in enormous data warehouses and needs to be structured in order for you to make it work for your business. In addition, there's other kinds of data sources such as customer satisfaction surveys, loyalty clubs, things like that that have just exploded over the past decade or so. In addition to that, data science also uses a lot of information that is from third-party resources, such as census. A lot of times we can use that for income estimation just based on someone's zip code in a loyalty database or some kind of other source. Additionally, a very important data source now is geographical information systems, where we can have a very detailed readout of where the customers are and where they're going to and why. So when we are going through all of these, we realize that these are all very large data sources. So what is the science side? The science side is trying to take these huge databases and figure out some way to structure them so that we can answer business problems. So what we do is we look at the availability of our data and what kind of scientific methods we can use in order to make analyses that are feeding into the way that we run our businesses. So there are a lot of different ways we can do this. We can do a lot of econometric modeling and trying to figure out how the economics work specifically within our customer bases. We can do A/B testing, which is where we optimize the customer experience, and this is based in a lot of web design. The case study that I'm about to go through now is going to be an optimization of a promotional program by testing on customer samples. So I'm going to go through that right now. First, what I want to go through is putting the scientific method into our business workflows is quite similar, if you can remember high school chemistry, where you start out with a hypothesis, you set up an experiment, you run your experiment, you collect data from it, you analyze it, and then you come to a conclusion, which then leads into your next hypothesis. So putting the scientific method into our business workflows is a way of getting a lot of structure, a way or to support the kind of intuition-based management that we see a lot in the industry today. So there are some pitfalls, though, in trying to bring the kind of scientific method into our workflows. First is that there is so much unstructured data. Customer relationships, loyalty clubs, revenue management systems, there's just a lot of data. So Innovation Analytics, we can help work with you to make sure that your data is structured and clean enough so that you can be doing these kinds of more advanced analyses and making your business work for it. A second is the failure to turn insights into actions. And so what that means is we may have complete data, we may have reliable data, but are we choosing the correct method to analyze it so that when we come out with an analysis, that we know that it's actually supporting the question that we wanted to answer. So we can also help you with that in trying to structure your experiment or your analysis so that it's actually answering your business problem. And finally, IT can be expensive and the skills are a little bit, IT is expensive and so are the skills to put them into practice. So we can also consult on those issues with you and how to put in the proper IT and get yourself staffed up so that you can actually incorporate scientific method as workflow into your business. So here is our case study. Our case study is going to be an example that has a direct mail promotion for a location. So if we consider that we have a location, a brick and mortar location, that we want to send out promotional coupons for, we can consider that there are a lot of customers around here, and we're going to possibly have a direct mail offering that is valued at $10 of free slot play. So what we're going to do in this case, and this is the original case, is that we would then send this very homogeneous offering to all of our customer database, or anyone that we can get it to. Because we know that some people will respond to that. With this $10 promotion, they're going to be motivated to come into the brick and mortar location. So we see here that, these green customers were activated by this promotion. This $10 that we offered them in free slot play was enough to see that they came in, they used it, and then they produced revenue inside the brick and mortar location. Now, in this example, there is a lot of gray customers still out there. So we don't really have a lot of information on why it didn't work. In addition, we don't have all perfect information on the people who even it did motivate to come into the location. So we do know that, the people who responded to this came in, they created some revenue for us. And we also know that we had those great people who were not motivated by the $10 offer. We don't know why, but we also know that we lost out on some revenue because they were not motivated by the promotional offer. So when we go through this, we see that this was an unmotivated customer who just doesn't exist to us in this example because we couldn't motivate them to create any kind of connection with the brick and mortar location. So we go through here, we see, in this very simple example, we've created 120 of revenue. There's $20 expense total from the two who returned the promo offer, and we have a $100 profit. But with data science, we can improve upon this. We can make this a much more efficient endeavor. So in the case of an experiment, we're going to go through our customer database and choose a random sample. By choosing a random sample instead of using the whole customer database, we can limit the amount that we're spending on trying to make this a more efficient promotion. So what we do is we vary the size of the promotion. Instead of just sending out the single $10 promotion to the entire database, we're going to be using this subsample and sending smaller and larger so that we're going to figure out how to subsegment and what the different sensitivity to each of these promotional values is. So what we do is we send that out randomly. And by using the behavior that we see, when we see this promotion come back into the brick and mortar, we can use the information that we have about those customers to put them into different segments that have different sensitivities to the size of that promotion. Now, if you look at in this example, we have 3 segments. The first segment responded to all 3 sizes. So just $5 was enough to motivate them to come into the brick and mortar. Segment B really didn't see anyone responding to $5, so we know that probably the most efficient promotional spend for this segment is 10. Likewise for segment C. They didn't really return 5 and 10. They need a much larger promotional offer in order to motivate them to come into the brick and mortar. So how does this change the math in the end? So by knowing what segment each customer belongs to, and because I've done that experiment, I can then put onto each one of these customers about how much promo they are going to require in order to be motivated to come into the brick and mortar. So when I go out to offer my direct mail promotion, I'm just going to offer enough, and I'm not going to offer too much. And for the ones who really need a lot of motivation, they get the larger offer. So each one of these is going to be tailor-made to that segment that we've done experiments on to see what the least amount or the most optimal and efficient promo amount is. So how does this change? Well, we see revenue from a lot more customers. And additionally, we're not wasting promo offer on segment A, which had a much smaller need in order to be motivated. So we're saving promo spend on segment A, we're activating segment C, and we were right all along with segment B. In the end, we see much larger revenue because we've activated segment C with a much more efficient promo expense, and our profit is likewise a lot larger. So what does this mean? This means that when we're going out into this promotional testing world, we're able to activate a lot more customers with a much more efficient promotional spend because we took a smaller sample to do a little experiment so that we can really get an idea of the exact amount that we need to motivate each of the subsegments. So now I'm going to ask AJ a few questions just to make sure that we've gone over enough of the information we can get the major points. So the first one is how do you describe data science and what is its role in the gaming industry? AJ?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I think with data science, there are a lot of people that, when I've had conversations, that make certain assumptions about what data science is. And so you just do analytics, or you do heat maps, or you do dashboards, or do you have a certain software platform that you're promoting? And in our case, none of that is what we really do at the core of our business. What we do is, like Matt said earlier, is apply the scientific method. We start with your data or a set of data, and we look at high-level cuts, and we look at segments, and we start to try to build a set of observations. Once we have that set of observations, then we move to a hypothesis about that. For example, if we see that your ADT segments go from having a very high margin in tier, what's a traditionally direct marketing tier 1 or 2, to a lower margin in tier 3, you might look at that as an opportunity to either boost visitation in tier 3 or in tiers 1 and 2, or an opportunity to increase margin in tier 3. And so because of that, at that point, since we've made the set of observations, then we move to a hypothesis. And once we have that hypothesis, we build an experiment around it. And so let's say we want to increase margin in tier 3. So then what we do is we take the reinvestment that you're currently given in tier 3 to part of that tier, and then we reduce it to another part of that tier, and then we can find out, okay, well, overall, do we make more money when we reduce expense, or because we increase margin, or do we decrease the money that we make because we reduce trips because they're no longer incented to come? And additionally, if we're doing it the right way, then we'll find additional opportunities to test deeper as we go and go. And so what's nice about the experimental, the scientific method is that we're able to iterate and over time optimize your operation. And so when we talk about what the role in the gaming industry is, one is definitely on the promotional marketing side, but I also think there are opportunities in slot floor design, and also with customer satisfaction data as well.
Cool. Nice. So, and next, what hurdles are there to instituting these processes? And can we decrease the impact of those hurdles when you're trying to implement a big method to your operations?
Yeah, what I've seen in the past is that the big hurdles have been twofold. One has been on the technology side. I mean, sometimes it's just tough to deliver data. I mean, like you said, there are all these unstructured data sources. There's stuff that even if you have a great IT team in place, there are legacy systems that aren't necessarily tailored to helping promote data science. Sometimes they're just more like data recording tools, and you have to figure out what to layer on top. And so the technical piece is one hurdle that I've seen. The second hurdle is just not being so involved in the math that you lose track of the operations. I mean, you have to truly understand the operations to apply the math in a way that's tailored to get results.
Finally, in addition to the promotional direct mail example that we gave, what applications are there, practical applications for data science and gaming?
You know, going back to the stuff that you talked about earlier, it's creating an experimental environment is the biggest opportunity to generate generate ROI in a way that you can actually say, do we make more money or not? On top of that, I think a lot of the stuff on the customer satisfaction side, really understanding what drives overall satisfaction and making sure that your guests are happy with the product that you're putting out on the gaming floor, making sure that your guests are happy with the level of service that they're receiving, and how the scores that you receive actually impact their overall satisfaction. I think those are two really fairly easy and not as dependent ways to use data science right now.
Great. So I'd like to thank everyone for listening. I'm going to kick this back to Marie.
Yeah, Matt, if you don't mind putting it on the last slide, since my computer's apparently not sharing anything. And actually, I'm looking for some Q&A here. Here's one. Slot floor design was mentioned. How do you apply data science to slot floor layouts?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that if you can develop an experimental environment on the slot floor, and I know this isn't going to be as specific as maybe you would like, but that's also kind of our business. So, I can't put the model out there necessarily. But if you can develop almost an A/B experiment on the slot floor, that to me is a way that you can that to me is one way that you can actually tease out ROI. I also think that slot floor optimization using the scientific method. I also think that you can optimize the slot floor just doing really solid traditional P&A methods, like understanding what a certain game is doing in a certain region. But I do think that the real benefit is understanding exactly two things. One is where should the game be on the floor, and do you have enough of that specific game at a current time?
All right, I'm going to look. It looks like we've got another question that came in. What percentage of the U.S. population gambles?
Actually, that's probably a better question for Mike than it is for me. So I don't know if he can jump on and answer that or not, or Cameron.
I'm going to unmute those guys.
I can take a shot. I'm not sure if my visual will come up, but that's fine. So dating back, and the question was the U.S. population, Marie?
Yeah.
So dating back about 20 years now, we have data that really started taking shape in the mid-90s that started to look at roughly half of the adult population, given a convenient opportunity to play, was participating. And the average number of times that they participated, depending on certain factors on the product side, could be upwards from 10 to 12, as high as 15 times a year. Those are very high-level averages, but I would welcome a detailed discussion on the topic offline for any of the participants that are interested.
You guys can also see one of our associates, Erica, responded to that in the Q&A section. She said 32% according to the AGA. We've got one more question here that says, in your example of segmenting, who receives the $5, $10, or $15 promotion? Can you clarify the parameters behind how those players are identified?
Right.
Yeah,
I can take that.
Okay, go ahead. No, go for it, Matt.
Yeah, sure. So it comes in from a lot of different areas, and what you're trying to do is not marry yourself to any one. Actually, I think I'm getting another call. AJ, maybe you want to take that so I can mute the line.
Yeah, no problem. So again, when we determine what the reinvestment level should be, it's all based on the data itself. So if we are working with a large database that is somewhat what Matt said, homogeneous, but you have basically a small amount of variation between all the people in the sample, then you might need a smaller sample to be able to tease out which levels of reinvestment an individual receives. For a sample with greater variation within the individuals, you're going to need a larger sample in order to determine what's statistically significant. So that's probably the easiest way to explain it. It just depends on the variation in the data. When it comes to who receives those offers, I mean, there's some level of, look, if somebody's only playing $5, they're not going to see a $5 promotion. So, there's some of that as well. So we have a set of margins that we manage to, and then we optimize within those margins.
Okay, so we have 4 more questions here. I think we can probably squeeze these in real fast. The next one is, how do you look at non-gaming versus gaming analytics?
I mean, we apply the same methods. I think I hope that this is a question about CRM and how maybe the non-gaming spend is incorporated into the analysis. And this is my guess on this one. So if you have a CRM that incorporates non-gaming revenues, then we would definitely use the non-gaming channels as part of the promotional package, right? Because we can measure it. And if we can measure those non-gaming channels, then we can actually see overall, do we make more money for the company and not just focus solely on the casino floor. The next question I saw was, how do you isolate the control for those customers who would have come during the promotional period and they didn't substitute wallet for the free play offer? Well, I mean, they're caught up in the experiment, right? So I don't know if I think the whole point of the experiment is because what you're talking about is that you have these people who come anyway. It's how do you actually tease out who those people are? And you do that by continuing to experiment until you have those people who would ordinarily come without a promotion as a segment. And once you tease out that segment, then you stop sending it to that group of people. And then Ellen's question, is ADT still a good way to measure customer value in the internet gaming space? Well, I don't know if it's a good way to measure customer value in the bricks and mortar space. I mean, what you need to do is look at all of your data and build a predictive model that said what's most predictive of customer value on the next trip or the next session. And I don't think ADT. We've run analysis where ADT isn't always the best way, but it certainly is what is currently accepted. So that's what we've used kind of as an example. But yeah, that's a great question. I mean, ADT is definitely not the only way to predict the value of the next trip.
And Michael, did you want to address this question? Does the Innovation Group create and administer a customer service satisfaction survey?
Yeah, first, just to finish off one of the points AJ just made, the life cycle of the player online is relatively short compared to a bricks and mortar operation. So when you're looking at the player potential for a particular site, in that case, or a particular internet experience, the overall value is less meaningful in that way to the provider because you've got about a 6-month hit in most cases before they're moving on and cycling onto new sites. We would hope on the bricks and mortar side that we'll get through trial and build loyalty that transcends a 6-month period by a lot. Then I think, and Erica, who I know is on the call, but I'm not sure if she's able to be put in voice.
Yeah, I can unmute her here. Let's see. Trying to find
Erica
her.
runs all of our customer survey work, so if she can get on, she'll answer. If not, I'll take a shot.
Yeah, Erica, I've got you unmuted now.
Okay. The question was, do we run customer satisfaction surveys?
Right.
Yes, absolutely we do. I mean, ideally, we work individually with different casinos and talk to their database. And, the goal of that is, as AJ and Matt had mentioned, if you can measure it, you can improve it. So we do satisfaction surveys. We do test against, what incentives work best for them. In our national surveys, we've found that having a hotel and offering discounted or free rooms are huge motivators. Even if you're a local, just to have a nice weekend away. So yes, we do that, and we offer those services.
I think in terms, if I'm still on line, Marie.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think in terms of a regimented customer satisfaction survey for tracking purposes, we would be able to set that up. Some of you may have one in place that you would like evaluated, but they can be customized to track the experiences on the casino floor, customer service levels, in the amenities, all the way down to menu items and cleanliness of restrooms. So it's another conversation that we're happy to have offline.
So it looks like that wraps the questions. I just wanted to thank AJ and Matt for your time and giving a terrific presentation here. And I wanted to remind all of our guests here to visit theinnovationgroup.com so that you can follow us on social media and you can hear about our future webinars first. So also, if you missed any portion of this, be on the lookout for a recording of this webinar on our website. It should be up within the next couple of weeks. So thanks, everybody. We're going to go ahead and sign off. Feel free to email us with any questions.